Have you ever wondered what it's like to be a parent and to be transgender, to raise children while going through a gender transition? If you're wrestling with your gender identity right now, if you're, in those early days, if you're trying to figure out, can I do this? Well, I got news for you. You can. Stick around, find out how, and let's get at it. Hi, my name is Kate Madden. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish people. I normally make videos about what it's like to be trans in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, and just really trying to help build capacity and confidence in our greater community, talking about things like parenting, dating, divorce, work, all the fun stuff that we do on a day-to-day basis that is boring, and I love my boring life now. It's wonderful. What I'd love to see in the comments below is that if you're a parent who's also trans, share your experiences. What do your kids call you? What was that like for you? I'd love to read what that conversation is like amongst everyone who's watching this video. If this is your first time here, please hit that like button if you want to learn more. And if you've visited before, if you've watched a couple of my videos, maybe hit that subscribe button. If you're following me on other social media platforms, you probably know that I spend too much time on Twitter. And, there's a lot I've seen on Twitter, but one tweet in particular lives rent-free in my mind and has for a couple of years, and always around this time of year, I'm thinking about it. I just want to share that with you. It kind of sucks that I don't have much of a say in whether I'm recognized on Mother's Day or Father's Day. Other people decide, and sometimes that decision is neither. Each day comes with an asterisk, so I don't get to fully own or celebrate either one. Maybe I shouldn't let a Hallmark holiday bother me, but it's actually lonely and depressing as hell. Another holiday I just try to survive. So if you haven't had a chance, if you've never seen Melody before, she's got a great YouTube channel. She hasn't posted it in a little while, but she's got a lot of really fantastic stuff detailing her transition and just some different things that she's done that I certainly early in my transition really looked up to her and the things that she shared on her YouTube video. I reached out to her on Twitter and let her know I was making this video as well. The reason this tweet is just kind of stuck with me and it resonates with me so much is that it just really captures the complexity of what it's like to be trans and a parent, and to navigate that with your children, navigate that internally, and a lot of times try and navigate that with your co-parent. Sometimes, within a committed relationships, and sometimes while the relationship is ending. And because you have no control over it, I know I've certainly just really struggled around this time of year. And it also, I think her tweet highlights just the expectations that we live in this compulsory heteronormative world that we live in with cisgender people, and those really defined gender roles that I think transitioning gender you abandon and you walk away from. But in doing so, you get to run into the emotion of what kind of day do I get to celebrate. Yeah, there are lots of conflicts being a parent who is trans, but through that introspection, I think of looking at things like this tweet that came out from Melody, I think you have a chance to really resolve and just journey through that and process through it. I just kind of want to share that journey, how me and my kids got somewhere, and kind of our trans family. My kids are gamers, and there was this moment where kind of it clicked that we were on a different journey than we had been on previously. And that was, I'm going to say 5 months after I'd moved out of the family home. And I had already changed my name legally and all the documents and done all that. And one of the things that I had changed, to match the banking and the credit cards, is I had changed over the online gaming, the PlayStation, whatever that is, the PS Network, I forgot, PS Play? I don't know, I forget. But anyways, they saw my name, they saw Catherine, and it said "Welcome, Catherine Madden" or something, and they're like, "Who's that?" And so we didn't really talk about it at the time at all, because I was in the middle of a real tough divorce. Like there was a lot going on in my world at the time. There was a broad range of emotion, like from fear, like, oh my gosh, what if my ex finds out that we've had this? Because she was real specific about what I could and couldn't say around the kids. To excitement, like I get to share myself fully with my children. Like they get to know me as I really am, and that was exciting. To take steps closer to that authenticity. I'm not an expert by any stretch. I've raised 6 kids. Still raising. I've been a parent, for 20 years now, and through that, I've learned different things. I've learned how to grow. The parent I am today is not the parent I was 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago at the start of my transition. I do have children that I am estranged from, and there's all sorts of reasons for that. And quite simply, I made some very serious mistakes in parenting. In taking the time to listen and to grow and to heal my own trauma, it's only reinforced my sense of unwavering love for my kids, all of my children, and my hope for them in the future. Even in difficulty and conflict, though, I think a family, and I know our family did, I think a family can find a way forward. Even if it doesn't look like what it did before your transition, it can still be a beautiful thing. And yeah, so, over that first year, there were some different moments, and then it was about a year in before my kids finally saw me as myself. And so I get them every other weekend, and I would switch back to boy mode till the point where I couldn't hide. Like I was male failing, so to speak. I couldn't hide anymore. But that first year there was a lot of moments where, it's my son finding my ID, my new ID, and seeing an F, and my former spouse and I, we took him to Dairy Queen after school because he had some questions, and like the thing he said is, why do I feel like I have 2 moms? And that kid knew something was up. So yeah, we went to Dairy Queen to talk to him about it together, just as co-parents. We were trying at that time, and he looked at the license, my driver's license. How old was he at the time? I think he was 7. And he looked at the driver's license and he just said, "Can I have my ice cream now?" And that was that. Never really talked about it again. My former spouse spent more time looking at my license that afternoon than my kid did, which was the whole point of getting together. And what, moments like that taught me is just there's a need for openness, there's a need for discussion, for dialogue, for communication, with your kids about what's going on, and there's a need to be kind to yourself and to have the self-respect, for your own journey, and to make sure that you take the space that you are entitled to. This is a real powerful thing, gender transition, and it's a real beautiful thing too. And I hope you get a chance to celebrate it with your children and with your family in that way. I mentioned I was going through a real difficult divorce in the first couple of years there, and that took a lot of energy. It had a massive toll on my mental health and just my overall well-being. It was a high conflict situation when I was living, as my marriage was falling apart. A lot of yelling, a lot of screaming, a lot of fighting, And then after I moved out, that conflict remained. Like the cycle of abuse continued, and there's no way to reset it. So it just kind of amplified over time. And at the same time, you're navigating like the journey with societal expectations and pressures. Like, here you are, the breadwinner. Here you are, the sole provider, the father, the caretaker, the husband. All this stuff, and now you've betrayed your family. Like, these are things that people said to me. These are things people may still say about me. And you walked out. Like, these are all things I heard, and they're all things I said to myself as well. Through that, you're navigating, that internalized transphobia, that internalized homophobia. That even 5 years later, this morning, I was just joking about it with some teammates on the soccer team. When you encounter that, you're like, oh, I got to work on that. Early on, I wasn't sure what I wanted my kids to call me, and I experimented. And I want to emphasize, I experimented. Just really trying to navigate what that was, and try to, as I was learning more about gender and, the differences between gender identity and gender expression, and as well as, I think, really freeing myself from that sense of biological essentialism that are a lot of turf talking points today, in that, they reduce womanhood to gender, or in that they reduce womanhood to sex assigned at birth and the capacity to give birth, and you'll hear things like the divine and sacred birth canal and stuff, and you'll see it in the comments. You will see that they're gonna mention this in the comments. You'll see it if I don't get a chance to delete it before that. I began experimenting with my kids. Like, I would say things like mom, and I would post on social media about being a trans mom, and this didn't go on for long. And like I said, my main focus really was the divorce and surviving that, and so so I turned my attention elsewhere and kind of just started listening to the kids. What were my children saying to me? What were they expressing to me? And I hear them switch. Even today when they're talking to me versus when they're on the phone, and then they have to switch to the other language, so to speak. But my kids call me dad, and that doesn't negate being a woman. And what I've learned about womanhood since then, like this whole experience, specifically about what do your kids call you, is that being a woman is multifaceted. It's complex. It's encompassing of a number of different experiences and identities that are not necessarily related to birth or chromosomes or anything like that. And it's inclusive of trans people, non-binary people. It's inclusive of all our experiences. And, we're all subject to that misogyny that exists out there in the world, the threat of violence and the patriarchy. So, I had to navigate through those talking points, like really the turf talking points that were in my head from just my own experiences, coming out of a religious background, a conservative background, and they were so harmful. Like, what's the line in Sensei? Like, the greatest damage we do is the damage we do to ourselves. And the closet, while it feels comfortable, it's actually super damaging and super harmful to you and to the people you love around you. While my kids call me dad, and that's what works for our family, that's the point we got to, it might not work for your family. And I have trans friends, parents who are parents, and their kids call them mom. I know trans men whose kids call them dad, and we all get the spot that works for us, works for our kids, and works for our family. And I think if we can enter into this process with our kids in a way that is open. It also lets us grow in a way that really highlights our resilience and ultimately creates a safer environment for our children. So a question I've been asking myself recently is, am I a parent who's trans, or am I a trans parent? And you might just think, well, this is semantics, it doesn't really matter. I think how we use language is really key in how we identify, how we live our lives, how society views us, how we're accepted into society and transit through. And so, if I'm a parent who's trans, well, what's the primary identity? And like, we have so many different hats that we all wear every single day, but we're also individual beings that are separate from being parents. Like, my identity is not my children. Like, I want them to have their own identities, separate from me entirely. Like, I really am very proud of my kids when they set boundaries with me, or when they do stuff. It's really great to see. And maybe you can just dismiss all this. You're like, oh, well, really, I don't give a shit. Like, what you do in your house is your business. It's just personal preference. It's just politics. And we see that a lot today in a lot of the conservative media. I would expound on that a little and just say, okay, well, if that is, then what really matters is the love, the care, the support that we give our children. And that doesn't change regardless of our gender identity or gender expression. I go back and forth, to be honest. I don't know that I could firmly land, and say I am a parent first and trans second, or, am I a trans woman who's a parent? And I'm okay with that. Like, one of the really awesome things about gender transition is, when you reject that binary of male or female, you learn to reject a lot of binary options in your life. It never has to be either or. It never has to be black or white. And, you can live within that gray. And that's okay. It's really beautiful. I think it's a gift that we've been given as trans people, to sit there and to recreate the world that we want, and to live and love fully as ourselves, and to receive that love as well, fully as ourselves, in a real honest and open way. I mentioned that I have been a parent for 2 decades, and that I've made mistakes. And so, yeah, I'm not an expert, I'm not an authority, and what I can acknowledge now is that, like, yeah, I don't know that regret is the word, but, like, while I wish things had been different, I'm also in a spot now where I can be kind with myself and recognize that I couldn't be. Like, the person I was just wasn't capable, didn't have that capacity, that understanding, or the growth and healing that came from the gender transition. And, I'm really proud and happy of the parent that I am today. I love all my children, and I recognize that a personality flaw of mine is defensiveness. And, in those moments, I really try to listen in those moments, and just try to be the parent. And I think just that alone has made such a difference in my parenting style. Making the gender transition and having children who call me dad is not without comedic relief. And it's happened more than once where I'm in the women's washroom, and one of my daughters will come in looking for me and just go, "Dad!" And yeah, I'm sure it always confuses the other folks in the bathroom. there are moments as well of scariness. It's like, okay, well, the first time you go to the school, the first time you know, around other parents, you go to a birthday party, or kids get dropped off at your place, or you meet, you know, your kids' friends, or their parents, you know, and as well, like, how do your kids disclose that? And I sense in the younger children, you know, the younger Gen Z kids and Gen Alpha kids, that there's a lot more understanding of gender identity, and a lot more discussion. Like, they have words that I just never had at that age. And, like, you know, I've heard my kids ask people for their pronouns, and I didn't even know how to do that till I was in my 40s. Each road is different for each one of us. It's never easy. It always has moments of difficulty, and I think that's just life as a parent, you know, whether you're mom, whether you're dad. And, like, I guess times like this, where it's Mother's Day, it's Father's Day, and, you know, yeah, it is up to other people, and it should be up to other people, because while, you know, you do give yourself as a parent, at the end of the day, it's the kids who receive that love and get to decide for themselves. And, you know, I never want to be entitled as a parent that I expect their love or their involvement in my life. And I hope that the love and experiences that we share together just build on that now, and build on it in the future together. It is it's so critical, I think, just to try to create this open environment, free from judgment, and just a willingness to talk and share. So I mentioned my divorce, high conflict, and I left the house the eve of Father's Day 2018. And it was super traumatic for everyone, for all of us in all our different ways. But my son had a Father's Day gift for me that year, and it's amongst my most precious and prized possessions. So you can see the little businessman with the tie, and the next year I picked the kids up and I had them for Father's Day weekend, and something had happened where, like, I didn't want to go back to the house at all, and so I picked the kids up, and my daughter had something that she wanted to give me and she'd forgotten it, but I couldn't go back. Like, I forget what had happened, but some stupid petty thing, and I put my feelings ahead of my daughter's in that moment, and I really hurt her. You know, she's kindergarten, grade 1 at the time, and you know, I think I'm always going to wonder what that gift was in retrospect, and I wish I'd gone back, but you know, the moment that I couldn't get past where I was in that moment. But you know, I think we grow as people, we grow as families, we grow as parents, and one of the cool things about this is my son, I don't know, can you see it? My son updated this about a year and a half ago, with a pronoun pin, and he put she, her on it, and I love it, and I keep it by my desk, so I'm at work and I see it and I think about him, and I think about all my kids. So, you know, I think that pencil holder shows an example of how you know, just creating space for your kids to explore with you and learn with you, you can all grow together and heal together. And it doesn't get much more beautiful than that. Thank you for watching. I hope this has been a good use of your time, that you found value in it. Like I said earlier, please leave a comment below and let me know what your experience has been like. If you're a TERF, well, you're going to leave a comment and I'm going to delete it. Yeah, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, here's to life.